Welcome back to MorningAtNTV. We're glad you're still with us here, and we are now going into our Kickstarter discussion, and we shall be speaking the top Africa gathering that is currently underway in Kampala. For many who since yesterday and indeed today experienced some bit of disruptions to traffic, that was on account of the fact that we are hosting close to 2,000 delegates from across Africa here to discuss agri-food systems and put us on the right path to sustainable agriculture and the consumption of fine food. I have with me guests in the studio, but the preamble is that the African Union Commission has organized the extraordinary summit on the Post-Malabo Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, that is currently being hosted by the Government of Uganda here in Kampala. The CAADP has been crucial in driving agricultural transformation across Africa since its inception in 2003 and aims for a 6% annual growth rate in the agricultural sector, with the African Union member states allocating at least 10% of their budgets to the same. We speak opportunities, significance, and more for Uganda as well as the continent. The contexts are various, including agro-tourism, something that many of you might not have paid attention to up until now. With me in studio, I have the Commissioner from the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Stephen Byantwale. You're most welcome to the program, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I'm also joined by seasoned commentator, Agnes Kirabo, Executive Director at the Food Rights Alliance. Many thanks for making it.
Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year.
And it's a pleasure to host you for the very first time here on MorningAtNTV. Joseph Taremwa, Chief Executive Officer at the Agro-Tourism Association.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Allow me give the Commissioner the opportunity to bring us up to speed with what the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program is and what this particular summit is all about.
Okay. Thanks very much, moderator. Good morning, viewers. As introduced, I am Stephen Byantwale, Commissioner Crop Protection from Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, and I have been part of this process since 2013 when the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries was elected to chair one of the committees at the African Union, the committee referred to as the Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment. The task that was given to the Republic of Uganda on appointment of the Honorable Minister to chair this committee was to ensure that the previous Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program strategies implementation is reviewed. After the review, the report is generated, which this one is done through what we refer to as biennial reviews. So the last biennial review was conducted and concluded. So the task given to the Honorable Minister who is chairing this committee was to ensure that a thorough strategic program is put into place. So in his wisdom and support of the Government of the Republic of Uganda and the African Union Commission, the processes started, engagements were made, and in 2024, the African Union Heads of Government Summit cleared the processes and we embarked on preparing for this. So the drafting of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Strategy 2026 to 2035 was embarked on, and the drafting and engagements and multi-stakeholder engagements were conducted, and in a meeting in October 2024 in Addis Ababa, the honorable ministers of responsible for agriculture in the Africa continent met and agreed that the process was going on well, and also the heads of state and government agreed that now we need to host an extraordinary summit to consider and approve what the technical people had worked on.
Okay.
So this extraordinary summit that is taking place in the country is as a result of all of these processes.
Engagements and processes.
Yes, engagements and processes.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner, for that. I'll be coming to you shortly for what the next budget has for agriculture, because that is very important, especially in light of the Post-Malabo declaration. But allow me engage Agnes Kirabo, a seasoned commentator on matters agriculture. This particular conference comes on the backdrop of mounting challenges from climate change, biodiversity, food insecurity. It is imperative, I'm told, for Africa and all stakeholders to adopt an Africa-centric solution strategy. I do not know whether this is achievable within the frameworks that the summit will be undertaken, or it is simply the trigger or the beginning of something like that.
Thank you so much. It is actually not the beginning. Kampala is going to be the third generation, the third decade of this particular arrangement. For starters, I know many people have heard about the Maputo. The first decade was agreed upon in Maputo in 2003, and then only two targets were set. Yeah. And like you've said in the preamble, it is about realizing 6% annual growth in the agriculture sector, and government's allocating 10%. And in 2013, just like the Commissioner has said, there was this built consensus that number one, the framework was right for Africa. We must have it. But also number two, that we need to be a little bit more practical and more specific on which areas can we really focus on if we are going to turn around agriculture in Africa and then realize the 6% growth and poverty, ensure food security in Africa sustainably, and deal with malnutrition. And then in Malabo, heads of states upon that consensus broke down this whole commitments into 7 areas. And one of the areas was, are we still committed as governments in Africa to these particular principles and framework? And then number 2 was about increasing financial support or investments, both private and public, into the agriculture sector. And then number 3 was really we must end hunger and all forms of malnutrition. And then number 4 was about let us boost intra-Africa trade. And then we also looked at the issues of poverty, and we also looked at the issues of resilience and dealing with the issues of climate change and natural resources management, and also the aspects of can we have mutual accountability. So that's the decade that is ending. And now everybody has been referring to Malabo, Malabo, Malabo. I'm here to inform viewers that for the next decade, just like Commissioner has said, the whole of Africa and beyond in regard to agri-food system is going to be referring to us as Kampala. I also want to state it that people have been saying, these are the things, these are the summits that happen here, and nothing is done, and so on and so forth. There is no such a country called Africa. It isn't there. The CAADP, by the way, we always popularize it as CAADP. CAADP just provides an agreed framework among the African Union member states that this is how we should collectively deal with this issue. The implementation is supposed to be done at the country level. I have been part of this process that Commissioner has presented here. And one thing for sure, when we were here during the validation took place in Kampala, I think it was October?
Yeah.
Yes, when they were validating what is going to be considered now, what impressed me is how hurriedly the National Planning Authority of Uganda and the Agro-Industrialization Working Coordination Group ran to this framework to see how is it harmonized with the National Development Plan 4. For me, that one gave me a lot of hope that now the National Development Plan 4 and the subsequent investment plans, including the district development plans, are the ones that are supposed to implement this declaration. So if we fail to see the inspirations of CAADP reaching the last mile food consumer and food producer, the blame should not go to African Union. The blame should come to us. So it is a guiding framework that is supposed to give us clarity on which are the critical areas where we should invest. Okay. And then what is coming out, the ending declaration, we had a commitment on mutual accountability. What is also very exciting about this Kampala declaration is the observation that we need to look at the issues of the governance of the food systems. Right. How are they governed? What are the institutional frameworks? What are the policy frameworks? What are the legal frameworks? How are we holding each other accountable? How are we coordinated? So this is what is in this framework. Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, then we must look at the National Development Plan for the district development plans and the subsequent ministries, departments, and agencies' investments plans, because this is where implementation is supposed to take place. All right. Thank you very much, Agnes Kirabo, for that. You do offer a wide range of questions that the Commissioner should be able to give answers to when I return to him a little bit later. But allow me to engage Mr. Joseph Taremwa from the Agro-Tourism Association. Agnes Kirabo speaks of what is very pertinent at this point in time. The challenges that Africa as a continent is facing in as far as agri-food systems is concerned cannot be overstated. It is imperative that strategies that are sustainable are reached, sought out, and then the execution or implementation gets underway. When I hear Agro-Tourism Association, it does speak of agriculture that offers another dividend, that is tourism. What is the imperative here? Okay. So thank you so much, the moderator, also my fellow panelists. So agro-tourism is a hybrid concept, I would say, that merges two complex industries of agriculture and tourism. Yeah. People normally know tourism as a business of visiting national parks and lakes and rivers. That's right. So, but we certainly say Africa as a continent, or Uganda in particular, the big percentage is employed in the agriculture sector. That is across the African countries. But then we said, tourism is #1 foreign exchange for most of the African countries, including Uganda. And so you're saying, how do we add value to this farmer? A farmer has coffee, a farmer has, say, cattle. Before they even think of selling the output from the farm, what value can they be able to get to earn an extra income from the agriculture? And so that's how we came up with agro-tourism. So mainly what the association does is we support agribusiness enterprises as tourism attraction sites. So as an association, we work with quite a number of farmers. In Uganda right now, about 137,000 farmers spread across the country. Yeah. And so what we do is we support them in a number of aspects: increased production, increased productivity, access to inputs, but key is what value do we add to them?
because people have been doing farming since time immemorial.
That is right.
People have been growing coffee. Before this farmer even sells coffee, what value can the government, can the African governments, but can us as the Agro-Tourism Association add to him? And so what we are doing, there are many people that can add value to this farmer. But for us, we are looking at the element of bringing a tourist to be able to come and visit this farm. And the concept is simple. Just like tourists pay money to enter national park, they also pay some money to enter the farm.
Farms.
So at the end of the day, the farmer has earned an extra income, necessarily without an extra investment, because it's the same farm anyway, the same coffee anyway. But for us, we are saying you can add value to this farmer, and so that's how we're coming up with agrotourism. So the farmer benefits, one, because he has earned an extra income from his farm.
That is right.
Secondly, these tourists, because yes, Uganda is one of the most beautiful countries to visit. In terms of, if you look at the gorillas, I think we have over 60% of the world's gorillas, and so many others. But we also had an issue that most of the tourists would come after doing the gorilla tracking, after looking at maybe source of the Nile. They don't have much actually to do in the country. And so what we're doing, we're saying, hey, do you know that the coffee you actually take in Europe, in America, in Asia, actually the best comes from Africa?
Okay.
Do you actually know that comes from Uganda? And so at the end of the day, we also take them to come and look at these farms. But most importantly, which also is in line with CAADP, is that agrotourism is a tool for agricultural marketing. And we have seen this happening, that most of the tourists that actually come from across the world to come and visit our farms, these still are the same people that own companies back home.
Back home, yes.
These are the same people that actually own food stores back home. These are the people that still have technologies, advanced technologies, that they actually, at the end of the day, end up sharing with our farmers, linking the African farmers back home to export coffee, to export animal products, but also importantly is they are knowledgeable.
That is
Most
right.
of the tourists are knowledgeable. So at the end of the day, we have had a situation where we are able to learn so much from the tourists, where farmers have been able to increase production, increase productivity, because they have gained knowledge from people that came actually as tourists.
Okay, very interesting proposition there, and many of us will be looking at what kind of declaration comes out of the Kampala meeting and how it's going to harmonize what is no doubt a very complex issue when it comes to visiting farms and being able to understand how some of these crops are either grown and how they end up on the markets in stores in Europe. But allow me return to the Commissioner to help us understand the commitments to the framework, especially in light of harmonizing what is needed in this particular context against the national development plans. And Madam Agnes Kirabo did hint on so much of that. There is a tendency, for example, when conferences are held as huge as this one, the speeches are grand and the sentiment is positive, no doubt. But then, just like Malabo became Malabo, Maputo became Maputo, the risk of Kampala becoming Kampala is also there. How do you intend to be a different kind of declaration from the other two?
Okay, thanks very much, moderator. Yes, I think we should not, in the context of this, the Maputo, Malabo declaration, we should not take it that they became Maputo, Malabo, and they stopped there. That is not correct.
Okay.
I wish to take ourselves back to what we have gone through as a country since the Maputo Declaration in 2003. From then, you remember there have been development plans, and these development plans have been developed, and they have been having components that relate to agriculture. So you cannot say that it became Maputo and it became a document and a declaration.
The reason I said that is because often you hear, for example, during the budget framework process,
Yes.
where calls are consistent, increase funding to agricultural sector.
Yes.
We need more money in agriculture. Yet, given the context within which these declarations were made, this should be at least the amount of money or funding that should be going to that point. The cause should not be to meet this target, but to further allow more resources go into the sectors.
And I think moderator let's also appreciate that as government, we should not draw boundaries when we are implementing government programs.
Perfectly understandable.
And one of the issues is that when you look at agri-food systems, this is a package of all the activities that go around production, from seed, from the stock, up to harvesting, up to post-harvest handling, up to aggregation, transportation, value addition, up to the fork. When you and me, my sister, is having a cup of coffee.
Here.
So there are various players, and as government, these resources are appropriated to various ministries, agencies, and the other partners also put into the basket. And here the government under the NDP3 appreciated that if we are to implement a very good agri-food systems program, indeed it should be a programmatic approach. And you appreciate that currently we have like 20 programs that have been under implementation under our NDP3. And one of these programs that relates to agriculture is the agro-industrialization program. So when you talk about resources that have been appropriated to agriculture, and you talk about 10%, and you don't look at the resources that have been appropriated on roads for market access, you don't look at the resources that have been appropriated to Ministry of Water and Environment for the water
accessibility to
for production,
which
and
is a very important
which is very critical
aspect.
for production. You don't look at the resources that are with the Ministry of Local Government that are supporting our extension workers and the farmers at those levels. You don't look at the resources really that are holistic and under the agro-industrialization program. Then there we tend to miss the point. Another issue I would like to highlight is like now the country is implementing the parish development model. Over 1.1 trillion Uganda shillings is going to the parishes for financial inclusion. And what our people engaging in is mainly agriculture. So, moderator, I think the 10% we need to further synthesize and come up with an appropriate synthesis and the percentage, the real percentage that has gone to contribute towards agriculture.
Okay, thank you very much. I do appreciate that
and
proposition, no doubt.
AGI, agro-industrialization program, has over 1.2 trillion Uganda shillings in the budget framework paper that is going the agro-industrialization program.
Okay. In the interest of time, I would love to do some bit of compressing of this particular conversation so that we can be able to tackle a lot more issues, especially those that will come up for discussion at the various sessions of the summit. Let me ask Agnes Kirabo, as a seasoned commentator on matters agriculture and the need for us to transform our systems to sustainable levels, but most importantly, there is the threat of food marketing. And that one is more like takes us 3 steps backwards after we've gone to in front. Marketing of food in Africa is a huge challenge. I do not know from which point you can begin, but there is a lot of misinformation, for example. I do not know whether this is one of the aspects that are going to be discussed, and if they are, you might want to tell us or take us through exactly what the stakeholders want to achieve, especially in light of the power that the economics of it in marketing has.
Thank you so much. Number one, the unfortunate bit is thinking about markets at the tail end of production. I think this has been one of the biggest challenge. You know, there are these normative challenges that everybody would talk about. But I think one of the things that was put into consideration in the process of putting together this declaration is trying to dissect and establish what exactly is the problem. People do not have markets, and our problems of marketing are not only at Africa level. In the concluding decade, we had a whole commitment of boosting intra-Africa trade, and the last biennial review report indicated that there was no country in Africa that was on track in regarding that. We cannot boost intra-Africa trade when we have failed to deal with the issues of trade internally. I have to first master how I trade with Commissioner, or I trade with Eucharist, and then broaden my horizons. So it has still remained a commitment in the Kampala Declaration. We need to deal with the issues of infrastructure. One of the biggest impediments of trade is the infrastructure. If we are still carrying animals with their horns and tails, and we put them on a lorry and we move them hundreds of kilometers, so how are we expecting then to move meat from Uganda to Namibia? If I still need overnight flights, bullying flights, you know, just to go to Kenya, and you have to wake up at 3 a.m. to go to Kenya, you know, these infrastructure barriers, but also the issues of the non-tariff barriers. You would realize that we trade more with Europe. Increasingly, we are trading more with China than actually we are trading among ourselves.
African countries.
So we know that we have inherent challenges that are easy to deal with, and I think it is incumbent on every person in Africa, including those that are viewing us this morning. Number one is the issue of standards. Complying to standards. This one, we are not going to wait for Commissioner Byantwale to come with a stick and start whipping this around. We have to be responsible producers.
That is right.
Look at a product that you're selling, and it is your sole source of investment, it's your sole source of livelihoods. So comply to standards. Let us develop a standards culture among the people of Uganda. This tendency of producing it for the market so I can Malaga do everything, we are not going to get the markets. The stories of markets are going to remain stories. As I'm asking Commissioner Byantwale to make sure that substandard packaging materials don't get here, we get the standard packaging materials. When I'm still asking him that only food-graded equipments are allowed to be used in our agro-processing, when I'm still asking him that only safe or there is safe application of chemicals and fertilizers, not everybody going to do whatever they want to do, when I'm still asking him to provide that broader framework, we people in Africa
must be responsible.
Need to become responsible. So for me, if we are doing agriculture and production the way we are doing it, if we are handling food the way we are handling it, stop talking about markets. Markets are about quality, and increasingly, Chris, there is a class in Africa that is willing to pay a premium
for quality food. Commissioner, The set of questions that you'll be answering next have been laid to you by Agnes Kirabo, so I won't do anything more. And of course, when we return from this very short break, I would also love to engage a little bit more on food marketing. The Rolex itself was propped by some minister as one type of food that would put Uganda on the international scene. Many in the country are saying we have a lot more exotic foods that could do a better job than the Rolex. But that's a debate that we shall have when we return from the short break. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us here on MorningAtNTV. For those that went with us into the break, if you're just joining us, welcome on board. We are discussing the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Summit that is starting today here in Kampala. For many of you who may be driving into the city, some disruptions to traffic and diversions have been encountered. That is on account of at least 2,000 delegates who are gathering at Munyonyo for this meeting that needs, or rather brings together stakeholders to discuss the challenges to Africa's food systems. Now, with me in the studio, I have the Commissioner for Crop Production in the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, that is Stephen Byantwale. I also have with me Agnes Kirabo, the Executive Director at the Food Rights Alliance, as well as Joseph Taremwa, Chief Executive Officer at the Agro-Tourism Association. Mr. Commissioner, I'll be coming to you very shortly for you to respond to the questions that Agnes Kirabo put to us before we went to the break. But allow me hammer down the tourism aspects here and find the magic bullet in food for Uganda. First questions first. Will our delegates be testing our Rolex as they step into the summit sessions, or it will be one of the delicacies that will be served at lunchtime, specifically? Do you have an idea?
I may not be so much aware of the
specifics.
Because that is...
But the context is this. Rolex was touted and there was a special launch for it. But in light of the various culinary advantages that we hold as a country, we have a lot of food. And for example, the time that is taken into cooking luombo alone is a story to tell. And within the agro-tourism context, I would expect that a lot more attention would have been put to the traditional food and how that is compiled and cooked and served, and the significance that determines what particular food is eaten on what occasion to be the story that we put out there as marketing, so to speak.
So thank you so much. I think it was 2016 when CNN actually ranked Rolex as the best street food in Africa. That was 2016. In the same year, the Minister of Tourism also put it as one of the best tourism products alongside the gorillas and mountains.
Have we maintained that?
No, that's the big question. Unfortunately, we haven't maintained that momentum that we had then, because in Europe, Rolex was a talk of the streets in Europe and so forth. And we had a number of tourists that would actually come to the country to be able to get a chance to test a Rolex. That we have not maintained, and there are quite many reasons. One of the things that we have to admit as a country, as stakeholders, we have not done the best in terms of promoting and marketing and talking about what we have. Either because there are very many, because as you have put it, there are quite very many foods. Recently we had a workshop, and so one of my colleagues from outside said, but is this possible? You go to the dining, there are over 20 different foods. How do you people make it? So we have quite a variety. Maybe that has also been a challenge that we have Rolex, then you have Shabwe, then you have Luombo, then you have many others.
We are spoiled for choice on what we should focus on.
That is one possibly of the challenges, but I think key, if you are to admit, we have really not done a lot to do with the marketing of our products, of our tourism products. There are some countries which are also part of this CAADP that have really done tremendously well in terms of promoting and marketing their products. But back to your question. Most of the visitors that are part of the conference, I think we'll be having about over 2,000 delegates attending the CAADP at starting today. Most of them, if not all of them, should be able to taste traditional products.
That is right.
Or foods in the country. It could be at the same hotels where they are sleeping, but we're also making a number of arrangements that some of these delegates should be able to get a chance of visiting some of the farms, interacting with some of the farmers within, but also outside the Kampala city center. Okay. So that we hope they should be able to understand what exactly agro-tourism is, because as we mentioned, agro-tourism doesn't only look at really touring, people coming to visit the farm. We are looking at a number of components. One of the things that we are focusing on as an association, for example, now, is agriculture marketing, just like the commissioner and my colleague Kirabo has been talking about. Okay, that marketing is one of the challenges that African countries or African farmers, or even European farmers, are actually faced with. And so we are saying, what do we even market even when our neighbors don't even know what we're producing?
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Taremwa, for that submission. Mr. Commissioner, Agnes Kirabo had put a few questions to you that I would love you to submit on. But if I were to give Joseph Taremwa an opportunity to ask you a question, because as a key stakeholder, some of the aspects that they want are down to collaboration with the government.
Yes.
One question in 30 seconds.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you so much. Because they're going to respond. Yes. As agro-tourism, as I said, we are working with really a number of smallholder farmers, especially the youth. We first work with a number of organizations that are doing a lot of good job. So the MasterCard Foundation and the Government of Uganda, trying to support these young farmers. One, increase production, but mainly also get market for their products. And one of the challenges that we normally face is really access to really inputs. That inputs at times they are available, but when they are available, maybe some of them are substandard. Okay, and so we have had a number of our beneficiaries really making a lot of losses because they do not know where to access good quality inputs. Even when they're able to access them, maybe they don't really meet the standards. And so we want to know what you, as a ministry or as a commissioner, have in for us that the issue of access to quality inputs can be really dealt with.
All right, Mr. Commissioner, you will, of course, beg your indulgence before you answer those questions. We have some breaking news that is coming in. It's been announced that the MP for Kawempe North, Muhammad Segirinya, has died. The news coming in right now is that MP Muhammad Segirinya, who has been battling with ailment, has died. The details are being put together by our team, and we shall be able to share exactly where and, of course, any other information that you may need in as far as this breaking story is concerned. We do know that he has been battling an ailment. He underwent some treatment in Nairobi and then returned to Kampala, but unfortunately the Lord has called him. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Commissioner, I'm going to require you to answer despite the blanket of sorrow that has just been laid onto us.
It is very sad, very unfortunate.
Okay. Please submit.
Thanks very much, moderator, and it is very sad for losing our Honorable Member of Parliament. May his soul rest in peace. One of the issues that Madam Kirabo has raised and has made a contribution on is the issue of markets. Really, markets of agricultural products a function of many aspects, but what is critical and what we have been addressing as government on the issue of markets is on the quantity, the product. Number one, which is the product that is required on the market. When you have identified the commodity, the product, you address issues of quantity.
That's right.
The volumes. You get a market, you find they want 1 million liters of milk per week of this. And is it there? Is it of the right, are the volumes available? The second aspect is on quality. The aspect of quality also is partly at production and the harvesting and post-harvest handling levels. And normally improvements take place as you go into value addition. So the issue of quality, and again it cuts across, you find aspects like packaging aspects, and she has really elaborated on that. Then sustainability of this market. So actions around accessibility and sustainability of these markets when they have been identified is critical. And when you look at the areas under this strategy currently, the 2025-35 strategy and the action plan, many of these aspects have been comprehensed and packaged. For example, under Objective 1, to intensify sustainable food production, agro-industrialization, and trade. All of these aspects Madam Kirabo has raised have been condensed and are being elaborated on under that component. And we are going again, under this same strategy, we are looking at issues of boosting investment and financing of the agri-food systems, and many other aspects which we have been elaborating on without really leaving out the issue of agri-food systems governance, the policies and the other at country level, regional level, the economic blocks that we work with. On the colleague from agro-tourism on working with the youth, when you look at one of the objective areas is on advancing inclusivity. And this advancing inclusivity and the equitable livelihoods, the youths, the aspects of women, youth, the disadvantaged have been well elaborated under that component. And at country level, it has raised the issue of the inputs and the challenges we have with the fake inputs on the market. It is an aspect of really, one, I would say, indiscipline. Most of the imported and locally manufactured products go through a thorough process of evaluation and acceptance. So every chemical that comes into the country must have been evaluated, and it comes accompanied, that consignment comes accompanied with a certificate of analysis. And even in place, government has put a pre-verification for conformity of the products that come into the country. So as these products come into the country, they have the right quality and they have been verified. But as it happens always when in these liberalized economies, people tend to look at profits more than the quality aspects. And now that's where the regulatory aspects come in and the enforcement. And for agriculture, we have in place a department responsible for inspection and certification. And to support that process, we have also been supported by agriculture police. And we have agriculture police under a commissioner of police deputized by an assistant commissioner of police who is a vet doctor. Madam Dr. Nanyonga, Assistant Commissioner of Police Nanyonga. So the issue is, please, when you see some of these irregularities, some of these challenges, directly report to us or to the nearest district extension officer, and we swing into action and we prosecute these people who are trying to fleece our farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for crop production in the Ministry of Protection. Rather. Yes. My apologies for that. I would love to give the wrap so that we can allow you go and attend the opening of this very landmark event, the summit that is going on at Manyonyo. Madam Agnes Kirabo, what are your last words on this?
Oh, thank you so much. My last words, number one, we congratulate ourselves as Uganda. Remind you that we are going to be a point of reference for a whole decade. And number three is that it cannot be business as usual. I'm happy that, yes, we have a department, we have police, we are advocating for a specialized court. We must criminalize these activities, because for you, some of your relatives that you think are rich, they have robbed our food system. They have robbed the credibility of our food system. They have actually killed farmers, incomes and livelihoods. And they have killed the sovereignty and the dignity of our country. Now that we have a department, we are even getting an authority, we have a police, we need a specialized court such that we criminalize these activities because they are criminal in nature. We must be intentional. If in 2025 we are going to continue business as usual, then all of us are going to be blamed. We should hold each other accountable, and we should stand up against some of the things that are not taking us ahead. We should stop asking, you have not done this. Please, if we need to go for his tie, Commissioner, let us go for his tie. He will fight and then tell us, please engage Taremwa, because it is not going to be business as usual. And lastly, there is no country called Africa. Implementation of these frameworks are supposed to take place at the country level. I'm happy about the enthusiasm of people and stakeholders in Uganda as far as this summit is concerned. Let us maintain the momentum throughout the next 5 years, the next 10 years, to make sure that these good elaborated intentions reach the last mile woman, the last mile food producer, the last mile food consumer in this country. Please follow the discussions. If you've been accredited, you're welcome to Munyonyo. If you haven't received your accreditation, please follow online. There is an online link. Let us actually depict that we are the true pearl of Africa.
Okay. Joseph Taremwa.
Thank you so much. First, lastly, is also to congratulate Uganda for hosting this CAADP. But currently, agriculture is faced with a number of challenges more than before, especially now climate change. And that tends to disrupt a number of production practices.
That's right.
Mine is really to encourage the stakeholders in agriculture, the donors, the partners, the media, that we do not need to give up.
Okay.
Challenges are increasing every now and then. We also need to devise strategies.
And they come with opportunities.
Interesting.
So we need to think harder, think more than before, come up with better strategies so that we're able to deal with the current number of challenges that are faced with the agriculture sector.
Commissioner.
Thanks very much, moderator, and dear colleagues. We have been on this panel. Number one, I would like to thank the government and the people of the Republic of Uganda for it has been really massive engagement, and also people have been very positive on hosting this CAADP summit. And this is the D-Day. We have been waiting for it and working around the clock for the last 2 years. And really final, the last milestone is that they've, as Madam Kirabo indicated, it is now going to be the Kampala Declaration.
Okay.
And therefore, the Republic of Uganda Declaration, they are holding the
flag.
The flag for the whole of the African continent.
All right.
I thank you for this opportunity.
Commissioner for Crop Protection in the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Stephen Byantwale, many thanks. Many thanks to you too. Joseph Taremwa, Chief Executive Officer at Agro-Tourism Association, as well as Agnes Kirabo, ED at the Food Rights Alliance, for the perspective, but most importantly, the critical knowledge that they've shared in our understanding of agri-food systems. It's been a pleasure to have you on board. As we depart and end this edition of Morning at NTV again, I'm just going to emphasize that news has come in, as you might have seen on your screen, that the MP for Kawempe North constituency, Muhammad Segirinya, has been pronounced dead. Muhammad Segirinya has been ailing and was taken to Nairobi some time back, where he received extensive treatment and then returned to Kampala. But the Lord has called him. Just a brief about him. He's the MP, like I said, he's been the MP for Kawempe North and was on the NUP ticket. He and his Machindia West counterpart, Alan Sewanyana, spent about 17 months on remand at Chigo Prison in Wakiso District over allegations of being behind the spate of killings in Greater Masaka area before they were released on bail in February 2024 rather. The killing saw about 26 residents killed between March and June 2021 by machete-wielding assailants. The details of exactly how things are going to proceed, especially the funeral of the fallen legislator, will be shared in our subsequent broadcasts, including NTV at 1, NTV Akaungezi, as well as NTV Tonight. Do keep stationed and tuned to NTV for that particular broadcast and updates. Well, that's it from my colleague, or rather on behalf of my colleague, Priscilla Regina Naloga, and indeed the team behind the scenes that ensures this broadcast is smooth. Many thanks. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys tomorrow.